Neptune has moved back into the 24th degree of Pisces, and this is called the inhabited island. And in my experience, that's not a very well understood Sabian symbol. And so I'd like to go into that sort of in some depth today. The inhabited island, I'll read from my own work. Self-identification. In every sense, our ego is our version of the truth of life. We cannot grasp reality at all without ego. We cannot interact. We cannot even centralize our own consciousness into any defined point of comprehension. We come to notice that we clash egos with people who significantly differ from us on matters of deepest importance. On a grand scale, this explains religious wars and the mutual disgust between haves and have-nots. As we mature, we soften our insistence upon our version of truth and open up more to the fact that others are free to exercise their rights to see things differently to us. They inhabit their little island and we ours. And I think this is something that all of us need to understand a little bit differently. It's very fine when we find somebody that we enjoy being with. Excuse me. And perhaps we choose to spend most of our time with such people. And yet, a spiritual seeker will also look for those where it's difficult to get along. And this does seem counterintuitive. But these are the people that help us see where we have friction in our egos. We all have ego, and that's a healthy thing, very healthy. Without ego, we are not. We're identified as independent individuals by the ego. When you're attached to that and you think of yourself as more important than someone else, yeah, that doesn't help very much on a spiritual path. That's egotism. But the correct assessment of the difference between oneself and others is an important, in fact, an essential stage of spiritual unfolding. It has been said that to know God, you must know yourself. And certainly in one's experience, the more clearly and the more subtly on a detailed level one understands oneself, the more one sees others much more clearly. And that relationship between self and other is the essence of our path. So Rudyard, I will just read something from his book. He's written this lovely book, An Astrological Mandala. Can you see that? Which I spend a lot of time with. So he says different descriptions of the Sabian symbols to Jones. On a small island surrounded by the vast expanse of the sea, people are seen living in close interaction. Now, he's introduced this idea of the sea, and of course, you have to with an island. An island is very deeply involved in the sea, and he uses that to suggest how we come to interact with other people, and not only the people that we meet on the island, but the people that are over the ocean. He embraces that idea. His keynote, the need to consciously accept one's own personal limitations in order to concentrate one's energies and to live a centered, fulfilled life. Every individualized person is a small island in the vast ocean of mankind. The ego fulfills a necessary function as it sets boundaries and gives a specific character to the consciousness. Within these boundaries, a complex interplay linking and integrating the various aspects of the personal life can operate constructively. In time, these ego boundaries can not only expand, but can become a zone of intense interchange between the inner and the outer, between the individual and the community, between man and the universe. So he's stressing this idea that there needs to be a way for us to bring out that which is within. Because it's within, it's not easily seen. We may not turn our attention inwardly frequently enough, or specifically enough, or in a trained way to notice who we are without interaction. We can't do that. It's just not relevant even. We can't say, I am this, and nothing else is going on. It just doesn't make any sense. I am this because you're that. It's the difference that defines the self. And the inhabited island has all these opportunities to experience yourself as being different from the others. The downside of being on an island with people on it is that you feel crowded. You don't feel enough space. And the other side of the enjoyment of being with other people is the penalty of being with other people. And so we have to take on their energies and interplay with it, with our own, in order to know who we are. But we also have to deal with that which is coming from them, which is not clear. We have to take on the neurotic patterns of someone else in order to know how we deal with that. And when we might think that that person's a real pain and that person's just irritating and so on. Well, they're not. That's you. If you experience somebody as irritating, it's because you have irritation within you. Whatever we find in the other people that we meet is nothing more than a projection of who we are, ourselves. I'm also going to read something here from Mark Edmund Jones, and I know his style of writing is not so easily absorbed, but it's worth a try. An inhabited island. This is a symbol of the self-adequacy of experience on the objective side of everyday reality, and of man's gift for the organization of his own private world in any area of his special interest. He is always able to function in a complete independence of the alien or the unfriendly, and to develop adequate resources for his need in what at the beginning might seem to be the most barren of situations. He capitalizes on the potentials among which he finds himself and nurses the least of promise to its fruits. And his keyword would be cultivation. So he's looking at it quite differently from Rudyard. He's saying, there's all these people doing whatever they're doing. It doesn't matter. I'm doing what I'm doing. And every potential within me can be brought to its fruit by selective involvement with these people. So this other point where the asset that you have of the people in your life can be turned into a liability if they're too many or they're too intrusive. And Jones is saying, well, don't let that happen. Be strong in your boundaries, in other words. Be selective in the choice of those people with whom you do interact. So that's the Sabian symbol of Pisces 24. Neptune is entering that now until 12th of October. So Neptune brings with it a very special kind of approach. We have to trust our intuition with Neptune. There is no logical, clear-minded expression of the truth that Neptune is suggesting. Neptune doesn't really believe in facts and truth in the Saturn sense of the word. Neptune's all about flow. It's the oceanic movement of energies that are never the same for any two moments. And whatever you think you see, you don't. The ocean looks lovely, doesn't it? Until you get close to it when it's cold and dangerous. and salty and horrible to drink. That's the illusion of Neptune being exposed. So Neptune is exposing the illusion, also drawing you into delusion. You know, if you think all of this is real, if you think that those people are doing that to you, that person is to blame for your discomfort. If that's what you think, then you have got lost in Neptune's delusion. So it's just not like that at all. And we all have got caught up in this. This is what Maya means in the Hindu tradition. And it's explained in Sufism as Ishq, because what we desire is nothing more than the unclarity that we have and need to clear. So when Neptune goes through this sign for the next little period, couple of weeks, we're looking at the relationships that we have on our inhabited island. And some of these relationships are wholesome and healthy, and we can keep them. And yet there's more to them than meets the eye. Even if it's harmonious and growthful and so on, there's still more. It can be guaranteed that what you think of that person, who they are, what they are, your interaction with them, what it means, all of that is not quite right. We don't ever understand that fully. And Neptune is saying, well, let's just see where the falseness is. People project a glamour onto the world. Perhaps I could talk a little bit about glamour. It's that which protects us from the ugliness of it all. If you see change as Pluto, every single thing changes in every single moment, and it's like a boiling cauldron. And sometimes the changes are huge, sometimes small, but there's a certainty that tomorrow is different from today. The next moment is different from this one. And that's Pluto, and it's frightening because we don't have anywhere to stand. There's no stability or security or longevity or even any duration of reality. And Neptune's saying, well, then you have to make up something to protect you from that horrendous certainty that nothing that you own is yours, that nothing that you believe in is true. That's what Pluto's saying. And Neptune's saying, I can't handle that. Let's just make it up. And that seems like escapism, and it can be. It depends upon you. But it's actually also the highest level of creativity. If there is no agreed reality that has any duration at all, which is the case, then you have to make it up. There's no choice. We do nothing but make it all up. Your life, the quality of your life, the quality of your relationships, what your relationships mean. That's all your creativity. That's your artwork. And so Neptune's saying, okay, well, look, it's all a creative artwork, so let's just make it the way we want to make it. That's what glamour is. And sometimes you put on lipstick and good clothes and you want to look sexy, and sometimes you want to look serious and authoritarian and so on, and sometimes you want to look like your physicality is strong and you're playing sports and you want the opponent to be intimidated by your physicality, and sometimes you put on a shirt and tie to go to the office and you say, I'm serious, important, and can be trusted to do the right thing. And you know, all of these glamours that we put out there, that's all we're doing. We're projecting an image onto the world of self, of the relationship of self to others. And that's what we're talking about here. The inhabited island is basically about how to manage your relationships with the general population, basically. And you're bound to create a glamour for yourself to do that. There is no choice. There's a default glamour, which is basically to carry on what your parents were doing. and your peer group and so on, copying everyone else, for example. But we're bound to actually personalize that. That's the way things are. And Neptune is saying, well, look at that. Look at your glamour. What is it that you're presenting to the world? What clothes do you wear? What car do you drive? Do you keep your house in a certain condition? What food do you present to your guests? You know, how do you treat life? All of that is the glamour that we have. And we have a time now to look at that. That image, which is all it is, that we're presenting to the world, may be old-fashioned. It might be something that was useful 30 years ago, and it's just not appropriate anymore. Things need to change as we change. So, in summary then, Neptune is just saying, you're interacting with people, it's unavoidable. You've got to make up how that is and what that means. That's unavoidable too. Why don't you make that the way you want it to be? The way you need it to be, so that you actually get a true response, a truer response at least, to your inner desire. So, I'd love to be this kind of person. Let me present that to the world to see what interactions I get, and then I can refine that sense of self and change my glamour. It's just because it's Neptune. Other planets going through the Sabian degree would not be talking about glamour. But here we're using our interactions with people on this inhabited island to refine the glamour, Neptune, that we're presenting to the world, knowing it to be an illusion. And if we don't know that, then it's a delusion. Because that's what Neptune is.